You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's easy to sum it up. We're talking about practice.
Because it's about as casual as it gets.
What's the problem now?
That's a clown question, bro.
I think we ought to send a beat in at least.
World champions! Start playing with some jam in here. Let's go.
Philadelphia, looking as only you can look. Woo!
Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Diamond Club podcast. I'm John Hunter. This is Chris Lahiff, Danny the Pitchman Hart, and we got a special guest today. We got Jack Fritz from WIP. Jack, what is up?
Just enjoying some Phillies baseball here in September. Nothing better.
Are you enjoying it?
Not at all. Literally, it's going to be a decade. Unless they win out and things go their way. It's going to be a decade without Phillies playoff baseball, which is insane for a top 5 market.
It's getting more like, and we talked about this right before we got on the show. It's getting more and more frustrating to see. Like, we all believe that this team can do this. Like, this is what we thought we believed that this team could do this. But a week ago, we got, we keep getting hyped up. We get like, oh my God, they're within a game and a half. They're within 2.5. And then they just do this kind of stuff. And like last night, they got our hopes up again in the 9th inning. We were all sitting there like, this could be it. We could, this could be the, and every time they do something crazy, like a 9th inning, like comeback, we're all like, that's what's going to spark this team. This is it. Down by 6 runs, you come back, win. That's it. That's one of the things we thought could spark this team. But then we get lied to again.
I was going to say, they've done that multiple times where they're down 6 runs and they just come back. They are resilient. I'll give them that. But then, like, it just doesn't carry over. They don't get that. Besides when you were going on that 1.5 mile run every day and they went on that.
Yeah, what's up with that, dude? Are you still running?
Maybe should have started that in April.
Yeah. It was a fun time. And I am still running. It's just, when the bit died, and I was like, do people really care anymore? It's
we cared, Jack. We cared.
I care too. I care too. Listen, I did 2.5 miles today, so I'm a big runner guy.
Yeah, you're doing your part.
Listen, I'm trying to will this team to a division title, but like, dude, I don't know. Like, they've kind of been dead to me since the Diamondback series. Like, I would get in, when they were game out, I was like, this is fun. But like, ever since they got swept by that freaking team, it's like, how am I ever going to trust you again? Like, I would be excited to make the playoffs, but it's just like that series is just so emblematic of like where this team is at, and like it's been hard for me to shake that this last like month and a half.
Yeah, that and the Rocky series, like that was like that takes the air out of the balloon too. It's just like when they do well, it's great and all, but like the losses are so bad that it just puts emphasis on how little this team like shows emotion at the end of the day. Like there isn't much emotion outside of Harper.
Yeah, the Rocky series is the one that was the gut puncher. Like, okay, it is what it is with the Diamondbacks, but the Rocky series, just like 25% of their wins were against the Phillies on the road. That's what? Because all the road wins they have this year, and the most of them were against the Phillies. Like that, it's a punch to the gut.
I think I'm more just. I've kind of prepared myself for this, but like I kept getting myself like I said, I kept getting myself back into it, and then I'm thinking there's no chance that they'll do this again to me. You know what I mean? Like I've seen.
What did I tell you 2 weeks ago?
And yes, and so. Jack, 2 weeks ago, we had this conversation, and I said to Chris, I'm like, I'm tired of listening to people tell me that because I'm from Philadelphia, I should just be okay with the letdown. I should just be okay with it. I'm like, it's just annoying. Like that I have to continuously hear this, and I have to be like, that's right, I'm from Philly. That's why I should be okay with mediocrity, and I shouldn't get mad or get like upset about it. And Chris, what did I tell you about it?
you're preparing your grandma to pass away.
Yeah, like it's like they're sitting me down. It's like and that's he was like patronizing me, telling me like, listen, John, like grandmom's going away. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what he was kind of telling me. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that right now. And like, why should I have to be okay with that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's what makes it so much more frustrating. Like they have a top 5 payroll. Like people love to rip Middleton for like, oh, he's not spending money or whatever. It's like I want him to go over the luxury tax too. But like the payroll is $200 million. Like you should not be having to start like Rollins Reyes at third base for 2 months. You should not have a crap bullpen again. So it's just like, there's a reason why they have the most losses in the history of professional sports. There's a reason why they have 2 championships in 130, 40 years of. Yeah. And it's like, because they've had 2 runs. They've had 2 sustained runs in their entire existence. And like the thing that makes it even worse is like, I don't get why it always has to be just the most painful way possible. Like they have to lead Major League Baseball in blown saves like all time. They have to have the worst bullpen ERA in the history of baseball last year. Like they have to have the worst starting pitching staff, I think, ever in like 29. Like it just they can never just be normally bad. They always have to be like the worst. So it's so painful. It hurts. And honestly, I'm sitting here every night still getting excited because I just love them. But except when Nola does that. Yeah, except when Nola like, dude, Dansby Swanson stinks. And it's like against everyone else, he's terrible. Against us, he's like, the Tulowitzki or whatever. It's crazy.
And it's teams like the Braves that always are the ones that you're like, why can't we just be the Braves? Why can't for 137 years we've only had, like you said, 2 sustainable runs. If you really break that down, like you have to think to yourself, like you couldn't just think like, all right, well, this team's doing it this way. Why can't we just do it that way? Like what? Like they have such a hard time trying to disconnect themselves for certain things. And like I see people talk about like Girardi. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge Girardi guy. I'm not sitting here telling you that Joe Girardi's this great manager, but like the whole Gabe Kapler thing, the reason why they got rid of Gabe Kapler, and a lot of people believe that he just didn't connect with the city. Well, maybe that's our problem, that we continuously wait for people to connect with us, that maybe we're the issue, that we're, like look at ourselves in the mirror and think connecting with us should not be their number 1 priority. Connecting with wins should be their number 1 priority.
Right. And it is funny because it does seem like we get blamed a lot. Like we're starting to get blamed for the Ben thing. We got blamed for Carson.
Yes.
Even though they were defended to I actually think Gabe was treated unfairly here. And they always drove me crazy. Like I feel like people just couldn't grasp that a manager really doesn't have that much effect on a game. Like my whole point the entire time was like, I don't know if Gabe's great. And I do think Gabe I think he learned, from here. Like, I think I always actually watching the games agreed with his decisions. I felt like more often than not, but like, his first time here or his first spring training, he's like, yeah, we don't need alarm clocks, just show up whenever. It's like, these guys are professional athletes. Like they need a regimen, Gabe. Like that's a little too far. And I remember in the first week maybe of his whole tenure, like Nick Williams ripping the computers or whatnot because they made the lineups they make the lineups like 2 weeks in advance. And then I saw an Athletic article the other day where he's like, yeah, we make the lineup each day based off like gut and feel and like numbers. And it was like, oh, well, where was that here? So, I think he learned and all that stuff. So, but I agree. I think Gabe got an unfair shake because they expected him to like somehow lift a terrible roster up. And it's like, these guys are like, it's baseball. Like, a manager just sets the lineup and has to make like 2 bullpen moves and like have 1 pinch hitter. And that's pretty much what they do every day. So, it just was always ridiculous, the Gabe conversation. Like the problem was Klentak. And Klentak, dude, in 2018, they spent the first half of the year with the wrong numbers for their shifts. And they got killed every single night because their shifts were backwards because they had a moron running an analytics department that like didn't know what he was doing. And like it's sunk Gabe. And it's just like, it was, dude, Matt Klentak and Andy McPhail set this organization back like 10 years. I swear to God, they were
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
good.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. And the whole Gabe thing is, I always have this quote unquote debate or argument with the guys I work with about Gabe. They're like, well, he's not a Philly guy. What's a Philly guy? Is a Philly guy not a winning coach? Is he used to losing? Because that's what a Philly guy is to me right now.
Well, that's what you tell me. That's what you tell me it's supposed to be, right?
Right. Well, obviously, I don't agree with it, but I'm like, a Philly guy is someone who just doesn't win. Like, apparently, in their minds, and having a tan, and not eating milkshakes, not eating carbohydrates. That wasn't Philly enough for this fan base. And City.
I'll never forget after the Braves game, the first game of his entire tenure, where he pulled Nola after 68 pitches. We all know the story.
Yeah.
I was in the post-game show with Gilio, and like our third caller calls in, and he's like, I want my manager to have a gut and chew tobacco, and this guy, this guy doesn't get it. And I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. So listen,
That's the type of callers you have to deal with. It's crazy.
I love them. They are my favorite, but it was hilarious. The Gabe stuff was ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Is that true?
No, well, I mean, of course. I mean, women are not going to say that Gabe Kapler's not ugly. I don't hate Gabe. I say Gabe didn't get a fair trade here. I don't think he got ran out of town for no reason. I get the collapses they had, the wins that they had, and the collapses in 2019 and 2018. I get it. I just, after 2 seasons, we just fire, and if God forbid Joe Girardi gets fired again this year, I don't think he is. But how many coaches are we going to go through?
I mean, that's another thing. It's the already wanting him out. I saw someone earlier. And I've had this conversation a couple of times with the same guy about this. He said that, the reason why the Phillies shouldn't fire Joe Girardi is because free agents and agents will look at this organization as like, what are they doing? Why are they keep firing their manager? Which, hey, probably that could be a possibility. But a thing that I see it more as is they won't fire him right now because they have a lot more to do. And adding a managerial, search to that laundry list would be brutal. It just would be awful. And they already and we had Matt Breen on a couple weeks ago, and Matt was even saying, he's like, they are already paying guys to not play next year. The last thing they want to do is fire a manager to not be there, and they're going to be paying him regardless. So he's on his last year.
Right. I also kind of feel like they don't want to admit they're wrong. Because the owner came out. The owner came out after he fired Gabe and said that these last 2 Septembers are the reasons why Gabe's fired for coming up small in September. It's like, well, newsflash, John. We're about to have another September where we're not going to make the playoffs, and I guess the September record's gonna be better this year. But I think a lot of that was aided from playing like the Pirates and the Orioles. And,
absolutely.
Of course.
It's not the same thing. So I just don't think they want to admit they're wrong, and I think they want to believe that Joe Girardi is the guy. And I can't say that a manager doesn't matter and then be mad at Joe Girardi. Like, I mean, we know this roster isn't talented enough, but I also don't think he's helped this roster at all. I don't think he's I feel like I'm scratching my head every single night. Like, again, last night, you're not pinch hitting Bohm. You're not pinch hitting Bohm in the ninth.
How do you let Didi back?
Lefty on lefty. It's lefty on lefty. And like, all right, so the scenario plays out, or if he comes up, he gets a big hit, then you're worried about the spot 2, batters down. Well, at that point, you already taken the lead. So who cares?
Yep.
Just bat nap. Like, it's just. So he does stuff. So it just frustrates me when he like relies on veterans too much. Like why is Didi in the lineup tonight? Stuff like that.
Well, he's big time, isn't it? Like he's in big situations. That's what he does.
He got a big hit 5 years ago. So he's
before Joe Girardi. So that's where he sees that, and that's another thing. That I've noticed. If you look at Joe Girardi. As of right now, he is still without he's been under 500 in 2 of his 3 seasons so far as a manager in the National League. He won the Manager of the Year in 2006, where he was still 5 games under 500.
Yeah,
he was under 500 again last year, and right now they're If they don't win another game, they're at 500. So he's not really tipping the scale one way. If he is, he's tipping it the wrong way. But like he's not like do you see what do you see as far as him getting fired? Do you think that is a even possibility?
No, I don't. And like I think it came out maybe a month or two ago, Dombrowski was talking about it, and like it seemed like Joe Girardi, they're pretty committed to him being here. And I think he has a decent amount of say, within the organization. I think they trust his player eval and that kind of stuff, and liking baseball players. But yeah, I think there's virtually no shot. I think they're going to give him at least another year. The interesting part is can you really have a lame duck manager? I mean, in 2017, Pete Buchanan was a lame duck manager, and they felt pressure to extend him because what team's going to respond to a lame duck manager? They gave him like some BS extension, and then they still fired him anyway. So it's gonna I wonder if they're going to come out and extend him this offseason or maybe early next year, because if not, he's a lame duck manager, and it's just hard for players to be like, well, are you even going to be here? So it'll be fascinating. Next year might not be the last year of Joe Girardi as manager.
Yeah, and I could see that. I could truly see that. I mean, the only other way that I could think they would go would be to Dusty Watham. I think if they were to get rid of him, they'd probably stay in-house. I can't really imagine them going and grab I've been on the Will Venable kick for the last 2 years. I think Will Venable is a guy who is going to find himself in a nice spot this year. Could even find himself in like San Diego, because I don't think Tingler's going to come back there. But I feel like he's going to be a manager. The guy's going to be a manager. It seems like he's got a smart mind. But anyway, I feel like if anyone, that's where I would go outside of the organization. But if anything, I think if they were to fire him, I think Dusty Watham would end up being the guy.
Yeah, I would just hope that. I hope that whenever they make a move, I hope Raul Ibanez is still available, because I think he's going to be a superstar manager. And Placido Polanco actually is in the Dodgers kind of farm system, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's another guy. But like the thing is, Dombrowski, if they hired a young gun GM, all the the analytics type, like I could see him wanting to move on from Girardi. But they hired Dave Dombrowski. Like I'm pretty sure they're pretty aligned with
exactly
with how they think about things.
I'm with you. So we brought up, you brought up the player eval for Joe Girardi and how they trust him and stuff like that. Now, what is your take on them not really playing the younger players, and they're more committed to like the veteran players, like the Travis Jankowski getting more playing time than a Mickey Moniak, not giving him a shot, but giving Travis Jankowski an opportunity. Like, what is your take on that?
Well, I just think he trusts older players to know how to play the game the way that he thinks that's the correct way to play the game more often than not. And like Jankowski, to his credit, I thought he, outside of getting picked off at second base in this first ever outing, was a smart baseball player. I thought he was a good, solid baseball player. Can't hit. I mean, that's obvious. So I just think I think if he's looking for role players, he wants guys that he can trust that are going to do the right thing on the field. So sometimes I think it's to his detriment. And unfortunately for these young guys that do come up, they pretty much have to slap him in the face and say, no, I should be playing more, like Vierling. Came up and he's been raking for about a month now, and Girardi's like, yes, I got to play you, which is great. The competition does breed that, but I do think he falls in love with older players too much. And he almost trusts the track record versus what's happening in front of him. He's not using his eyes and saying, no, this guy's playing well, versus like, oh, let me look at his baseball reference and see that, 4 years ago, he was really good in these scenarios. So I just think that he just trusts those guys a lot more, and he wants guys that are going to make winning plays rather than maybe playing the more talented players because he doesn't trust them to kind of be smart. But I think he falls in love with the old guys, and the example is Didi. I mean, Didi is might be the least valuable player in baseball this year, just defensively and offensively, and he won't move him. They trade for Freddie. Like, I know Freddie's banged up or whatever, but like, they trade for Freddie Galvis and they're playing at third base. Like, what is the point in trading for Freddie Galvis if you're not trying to fix your infield defense? I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
You're right.
Funny. Before you came on, me and John were talking about that. We were talking about how Vierling's been, he's been raking the ball for the last month and a half, and Didi comes up, and we're like, he just doesn't hit the ball to the opposite field at all. Like, why is he in the lineup? Like,
literally never once in his career has he hit a
opposite field.
Closest he's gotten was right center field.
I don't. That is an amazing stat. Like, he eventually it's going to happen. It has to, right?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it has to. I really don't think it has to happen.
Like, I'm just saying, like, an excuse me home run by mistake, it's over the wall, like something. Like,
you've been in the league for a long time. You would have probably ran into that excuse me already, if I had to guess. I mean, it's just amazing that he just does not see that these are the situations that like you said are hurting him right now. They're hurting the Phillies in general. I mean, you're allowing a guy like this to play. You have Andrew McCutchen who who can't hit right-handed pitching. He just can't do it. Yeah. He cannot hit a right-handed pitcher right now. It's actually frustrating watching him try to even attempt it. And then you leave him in there. Like, I get having him play lefties, but they should have platooned him a long time ago. They probably should have platooned him maybe 2-3 months ago and start, figuring something out. This is where you bring up guys like Moniak. Let him play every day against right-handed pitching. And then you have McCutchen to face lefties.
But he just trusts that guy's going to figure it out. That's what he does. He just trusts that McCutchen's going to come through when he needs him to come through, and he doesn't trust the young guys to do it. It's crazy.
He did say that in the beginning of the season, that Kutch was eventually going to come around. And
he's a slow starter.
He started too, but then he started too.
Then he got hurt.
For a while.
Then he got hurt.
Do you think Joe Girardi's web browser is stuck pre-COVID?
I don't know if he's been updating it. I don't think he knows. I definitely don't think he knows what Fangraphs is. Like, I think he only knows how to use Baseball Reference and like look at the batting averages.
He does not accept all cookies
stats that MLB.com offer. That's it. And it's,
exactly.
It's 2019 and prior. He's like, Mickey Moniak can't play in the MLB right now. He's in low A. He's in single A baseball.
Exactly.
2019
I mean, that's a problem because, the binder hasn't been updated. And if the binder doesn't get updated, we're not going to get these guys up there.
And he's let him play outfield. He gives a shit where he plays. Like, he can play the corners. He can definitely play the corners.
I mean, even Vierling in left field and having Brad Miller at first base, like, that makes sense. Like, against righties. Like, obviously, you have to do something. McCutchen's not playing well. If McCutchen, like I said, I think I said it on last week or 2 weeks ago episode, whatever. If McCutchen and Brad Miller could just run into each other and make one baseball player, it would be fantastic. Like, they're the perfect platoon pairing. Yeah. One crushes righties, one crushes lefties, and he doesn't seem to think that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, that's what makes the lineup tonight so frustrating. Is like,
the hell.
That's what makes tonight's lineup so frustrating. Is what?
That was your phone, John.
What happened?
Yeah,
got like PTSD from my alarm clock.
Yeah, seriously, it's a jolt in the ear. But yeah, like tonight's lineup, you have a doable inning against a lefty. You have Didi against a lefty. Like, why not? Like, why not put Vierling in center, Realmuto at first?
Yep. Have Torres play short.
Yeah, you have Torres play short. You have
play third.
I would put Bohm at third, and then you have JT at first, and you have Nappy catching. Knapp, outside of his last start, has caught Nola really well this year. So I don't know. That's just frustrating, but he thinks it's September, so he's got to trust his old guys. And
like, there's 5 games left. You have to try something at this point.
Wasn't Knapp Nola's personal catcher for 18?
It was like him and Alfaro.
I know Alfaro was involved, but I'm almost positive he caught probably 80% of his starts.
Well, I think his ERA pitching to Knapp is like in the mid 3s, and his ERA pitching to JT is like closer to 5. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way there's options. You know what I mean? Like, if you and you brought up the binder situation, and there's that stuff I hear on WIP. I hear it on the other station. I guess we won't name it right now because you're
correct.
Here. We'll just say the other station. So you hear it a lot when they talk about they almost make it like he's like this crazy analytical guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not, because if he's analytical, he wouldn't have Odubel batting leadoff ever. Do you see that as do you see him as analytical if you look at like his actual lineup, the way that he constructs his lineup?
His lineup tonight doesn't make any sense analytically. Like it just.
I think
he says he is, but
this is gonna sound weird. I think he's a numbers guy, not an analytics guy. You know,
we've said that. We're on record of saying that.
Like he looks at the numbers, but he doesn't actually like know how to use analytics or like any of that stuff. He's again, I don't think he knows what Fangraphs is. So I think he has the thing he relies way too much on like splits and stuff. Like and like the splits don't totally tell the whole story. But like I've listened to a lot of his like, manager shows on our station. And he's just always like, yeah, well, the splits suggest this. And like really the only time the splits have ever like actually paid off for him was the Brad Miller game where he had 3 homers and he benched Reese, and it was like, oh wow, great, good job. But other than that, it's like they haven't really given him an advantage, I would say. So I think I think he's tried to be like 3 things this year. I think at the beginning of the year, he tried to be Mr. Analytics. Like when he was double switching for no reason, and like so you get to like the 9th and like he'd be out of position players like
all the time.
What are you doing? And then I think he tried to go like as a strict gut guy when he was having Nola pitching to the 9th and Wheeler pitching to the 9th, and that didn't work. And then now I have no idea what he's trying to do. I feel like he's just like, we'll see what happens. And it's like, great, awesome, love to hear that.
Yeah, that was another thing. Is that you bring up Fangraphs, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a numbers guy until I started doing a podcast with these 2 guys, and I feel like sometimes the only thing on my browser is Fangraphs.
Yeah,
because John always goes back to it. But it drives me bananas when you have stuff like that. Like Odubel goes from 1 to 8. Like he's either batting first or batting 8th. Like, leadoff hitters don't generally do that. So when he puts him in at 8, it just doesn't make sense, and that's when you get frustrated as a fan and as a covering a team. You're like, why?
No, to be honest,
batting him 8th?
Chris, him batting 8th is what makes sense.
Yeah,
him batting leadoff is what does not make sense.
Right.
That's what doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like you have a guy who's got a 300 on base percentage. Probably shouldn't be the guy who's starting your games off.
Well, the only time I bat him leadoff when he's hot, and the problem is that like he's either hot or like the worst hitter in baseball, and like there's never any in between, And I think his thought process is that like you have him bat leadoff, he will, the best case scenario is that him and Segura just jump on you by being aggressive, and all of a sudden you got runners in first and second, and that stuff, and there has been a bit of a transition, I guess, in the last couple of years of like transitioning out the high OBP guy for the hard contact guy, like Jorge Soler, for example. I mean, he's batting leadoff for them. That's because he hits the ball 100 miles an hour. Like his average exit velocity like over 100 miles an hour.
318. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Springer was always famous, like with the Astros being a leadoff hitter, and he was like a 330 OBP guy. But like when you hit 35 homers, it's a little different. Meanwhile, we have this where it's like. He's a 260, like, I don't know, bad hitter on most nights. So, it's not great. It's not great. But
like there was many nights where, there was many episodes that we've had of this where, I was banging my head against the wall, screaming for Harper to lead off at one point. Like it just, and I get it. I get the whole he should bat third because he, you want him to be in situations for RBIs and guys getting on. I get it. I definitely understand that. But when nobody's getting on for him, what's the difference?
Yeah, the first couple months were terrible.
If anything, he leads off with a double. He leads off with a double. Segura's up second, or he walks. You know what I mean? Segura's up second, takes the ball the other way.
Yep.
You got stuff happening. You know what I mean? You have stuff happening.
He started the season with what, 16 straight solo?
Yeah,
homers?
16 straight solo homers. Like that was insane.
Yeah.
Like that's where you get to that point where you're like, all right, well, maybe we should start something here with him, and then just filter everything else. This team wasn't really. Hoskins getting hurt was huge for them. Yeah. Obviously, that sucked, and he's somebody who you could have easily have said, you know what, the way that he's hitting this year, throw him at 4, throw him at 2. You know what I mean? It's just there's certain things you should have done. They could have done. Yes, we are watching the game. Except for Chris, it's behind him.
I can see.
But but yeah, it's like there were certain situations where I definitely would have been like, all right, well, maybe we should just switch things up here. But they just never did, and it was just the same lineup out every night, which also I feel like leads to the situation they're in right now. There was never any like real crazy, difference in their lineup ever.
Yeah, I mean, the big move was moving McCutcheon down, obviously. I mean,
yeah,
he was that for a little bit. And I was glad he moved him out of there because he wasn't, doing the job. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, they don't have a natural leadoff hitter. Harper does feel like a kind of a waste of his good things, which is hopefully driving guys in. I had one thought early in the year putting Bohm up there because I thought like at least he's probably going to get fastballs, and if he can figure out how to hit fastballs, like he should be able to make hard contact. And then like I think like halfway through the year, I looked at his fastball numbers and it was like he's done like 115 against fastballs.
Seems like that real quick.
Seems like a problem. But yeah, it's just and Hoskins, you mentioned it, but Hoskins going down. Like if he's healthy, they're a playoff team.
I agree.
He was the guy that always got the big hit when they needed him to get the big hit. And they just haven't had that extra thumper. Like JT is not a 4-hole hitter.
No, he's not at all.
He probably shouldn't even be like your second best player, frankly. So he just hasn't been able to step up with Hoskins going down. And if Hoskins is healthy, this is a completely different story.
No, you're right. You were talking about the big hits because obviously Reese had that big hit in Atlanta. Unfortunately, it got called back for a double because it didn't go over the fence, they said. But no, you're right. Reese was there for the big hits. We said that before, but these fans want JT to hit 30 home runs. That's not what he does. They think as the nickname, the BCIB, that he's supposed to do everything. And unfortunately, we've relied on him too much to do anything, and he got hurt with the shoulder. That's kind of like why I wish he was playing first, and you usually have Marchand or Knapp pitching. I am not a fan of Knapp. I'd rather Marchand be up here.
he might catch him.
Yeah, like all right, Knapp's obviously one of the worst hitters. Like I think I'd rather have pitchers up here batting. Yeah, but like he calls a good game, and like the numbers are the numbers, and I think JT's good, but I've seen 1,002 homers, and if the ERA by catcher is like last time I checked was 3.5 for Knapp and like 4.5 for JT. And I just think there's something off there. And I like the way that Nappy calls games, and the pitchers like throwing to him. Now he's obviously the worst hitter, like probably in baseball. But I think they need to get JT off his feet. I mean, it's the third straight September he is broken down. He's obviously not totally broken down because he's playing, but like
he can barely throw at this point. It's just like he can't with a shoulder injury. It's hard for him to catch up the high fastballs or anything like that. Like it hurts really bad that he's our second like biggest power threat on this team right now. It's just like it's like we said before, like it's kind of handcuffing Girardi when the back end of this lineup is so like latent with AAA talent that it's just like what the hell are we supposed to do with this lineup without Hoskins at this point? It's brutal. Is that
that's gonna be a run. Yeah, that's a run. Ugh. It's just
I told myself I want to cry on air.
And this is where the frustration goes. It's the guys like Eddie Rosario.
Yeah,
like him being available, and the Phillies. Like someone told me earlier that the Phillies. I'm sure Johnny Heller, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Johnny posted this thing about about how the Braves did a bunch of outfielders. They traded for 4 outfielders, and the Phillies traded for Freddie Galvis, and that the deadline is where they probably are going to lose this division at. Like that's where that's where it ended. And I saw some guy talk about like, well, they needed outfield. The Braves needed outfielders. The Phillies didn't. Only position the Phillies didn't need was right field.
I agree.
At what point did you watch this season and think, oh yeah, we're secure at all 3 outfield positions. We didn't need that.
Listen, we always go back to Sterling Marte. So
I know. That would have been crazy. It's almost like they kind of got there, and smartly they didn't say what Andy McPhail said, which was if we don't, we don't. But that's kind of how they handled the deadline. It was like, if we make the playoffs, we do, and if we don't, we don't. And I don't think it's like the worst strategy in the world. Like the Phillies don't have much prospects right now, but I do think that down the road they're going to get there. So I mean, like obviously, like those guys cost almost nothing, so they should have been able to do it. But I didn't hate the philosophy of like, listen, we know we're not good enough. We know we're not going to win the whole thing. So let's hold on to whatever prospects we have and kind of go from there and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, like it shouldn't have, cost an arm and a leg to get an Eddie Rosario. Or
he would. I was gonna say Rosario himself would have been very cheap to obtain, and he would completely fix the platoon situation on the left with McCutchen.
Well, the thing that's so frustrating is like he's been cooked in Cleveland, like wasn't good, and then he goes to the Braves and his OPS over 900. Like Soler, same thing, like wasn't good in KC this year. Goes down to Atlanta, and all of a sudden is like, oh, I'm a Brave now. I'm gonna hit 950, or they can have a 950 OPS. So like. I've never seen a Philly come here and just be good. I mean, Ian Kennedy comes here, a homer a game. Kyle Gibson comes here, has a 2.9 ERA as an all-star. Now his ERA is like 4.5 here. Like, if they're Braves, they're probably winning big games against us. So,
dude, look at them. Look at them last year. I mean, they brought in Hembry and they brought in Workman. Both of them were pitching very well in Boston. They got to Philly and just imploded.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it was crazy. There's never been, like, ever since the Brad Lidge trade, there's never been a reliever trade that's worked out. Like they've never worked out. Whether it's Workman, whether it's freaking Hembry, I think Kennedy's fine. He's gets the job done most nights, but it's just like we can't catch a break, and it's just frustrating.
Sold our soul in 2008.
Yeah, the Adam Duvall trade still irritates me because they traded a 200 batter, Alex Jackson, for Adam Duvall. I know the Phillies had that in the farm system.
Yep. Oh yeah, I mean Alex Jackson's terrible. So yeah, they could have made that trade if they wanted to, but I think Dombrowski is eventually going to get there. I kind of give him a pass. I kind of give him a pass for this last maybe half year. Like he signed on late. Yeah, he signed on late. He signed Matt Moore and Chase Anderson, which obviously wasn't great. But like, I don't see why he can't do what Anthopoulos is doing down there in Atlanta. Like he's a bit of a throwback GM. He's like kind of uses scouting and that stuff. And then, he trusts his player development staff to kind of get the most out of these guys. And I think Dombrowski can do the same thing here. I think he should be, I think this time next year, if he's not able to make a Duvall trade or a smart small trade like that, like he did, up in Boston. I mean, the Steve Pearce move basically won them more World Series. Going and getting Steve Pearce, a guy who crushes left-handed pitching, he was the World Series MVP. So he should be able to make moves like that. And this time next year, if it's the same crap where like they're missing out on the margins, then I'd be worried about him. But I'll give him a little bit more time.
Definitely. Justin, the name of that reliever is Dustin Robertson. David Robertson. Sorry.
Oh, David.
David Robertson was the name of that. Was the name of that ex-Yankees reliever.
Now he's Rays.
So Jack, I have two things for you before we let you go. Okay. One, can you tell people about Preston Mattingly?
Yes.
And what you know about Preston Mattingly and your thoughts on the signing.
So everything I've heard is that he's a superstar. That's talking to some people within the industry and just reading some stuff up on him. The one thing that I find interesting is that people use his scouting prowess as like the reason why he's here. But at the same time, like this is a farm director job. Like you got to know you got to know what works when it comes to developing players. So that's something that is a little interesting. But I also think one of the Phillies' problem the last couple of years has been self-scouting. Like I don't think they've done a good job in self-scouting. So maybe if he does that kind of stuff, it's gonna be different than what he did in San Diego. He was kind of working with Rothschild to come up with like pitching plans, and Rothschild was fired last month. Yeah. So I don't think that went well. So it's gonna be a different job than that. But yeah, everything I've heard is that he's really sharp, really on the ball, knows like the thing I like about him is he's definitely into data and sabermetrics, like been able to drive line a couple times, like gets it from that standpoint. Like the fact that Dombrowski didn't just sign some old fart that like wants to talk about hitting behind hitters or hitting behind runners on the base pass and like going the opposite way and like doing stupid stuff. Like not this, it's important, but like that's not important when it comes to player development. You need guys that know how to launch and hit dingers and throw like 99 and strike people out. Like that's what I want. So the fact that Dombrowski kind of gets where the sport's trending, I think is really important. But the kid was he was a first round pick, so knows how to play baseball. Wasn't very good, but who cares? So he has a scouting background. He's got a playing background. He knows about sabermetrics. And he just seems like, just everyone raves about him. So I'm pretty pumped with the hire. I'm pumped with him. I think Brian Barber is just a stud when it comes to finding talent. I mean, I thought they found talent all throughout the draft this year, from Ethan Wilson in the second round to Logan Cierney in the ninth. They just found dudes, I think. And the last two drafts and really in the undrafted market have proven that. So, I think they're trending in the right direction and Preston was a good start and a good continuation of that. So pretty fired up, and it's a good move.
Good.
Love to hear that.
He's also Don Mattingly's son, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that worries me there is like how much is Girardi involved?
Just another Yankee coming.
Don't say that.
I know. So, hopefully that's not the case, but there was definitely one part where I was like, oh, great. They hired his ex-teammate's son to run player development, or run the farm system. But I don't think that's the case. I think he got there on his own. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised the Padres let him go. They kind of turned down interview requests for him in the past, but I kind of have this feeling that like Preller's about to get fired and they're going to kind of blow that whole thing up out there. So maybe they were like, just go do your own thing.
Yeah, I think Phillies fans should be excited. I'm a big guy who always says, guys who weren't great baseball players, they know how to evaluate talent, and I feel like it's been a proven fact just in the history of Major League Baseball. Coaches who weren't good baseball players were great coaches, and players who were great baseball players weren't great coaches, like Ryan Sandberg. Like those, you just don't know what you're looking at. And like I said, we should all be excited for it. I know I am. And what was your second question, John?
Well, I'm happy that Dombrowski's actually trying to do something, and he's not okay with this farm system being terrible as it's been for probably as long as we've all been alive. Our farm system's been pretty bad, and Dombrowski's finally like saying that's enough. Like we need to make changes. We obviously are not the best at developing talent, so we need to do something so he can go pull the trigger on the trade deadline next year and make the moves that he's going to need to push us into the postseason. I'm just finally someone's actually doing something about it.
Yeah. And Jack, my last thing that I want to bring up to you, I brought it up to Matt Breen as well. And we're starting to get somewhere. I thought we were. I am now 46 straight days.
Nice.
46 trying to get the Phillies to follow me on Twitter.
Right.
46.
Right.
What do I have to do you think to get that to happen?
Well, they don't follow me, so we're in the same boat, pal. We're in the same boat on that one.
But what do we have to do, Jack? What do we have to do?
I don't know. Like they went on this following spree last year, in the offseason where they were just following Phillies Twitter guys or people. But I don't know. I literally have no idea. I know the social media manager. I think it's a little messed up that he hasn't followed me back, but
are you talking about Graham Foley?
Yeah.
So that's who we got in touch with, and he does not handle who they follow and who they don't follow.
Wow.
That's what I got told.
That's what he wants you to think.
Yeah,
you got lied to.
And you know what? And it's just getting frustrating, but it's also fun that I do it every day. It's getting somewhere. It's a good bit.
It's all about the chase.
He's hanging from stories of buildings, taking pictures of
I'm a construction worker. I work downtown, so I have a really nice view of the stadium every day.
Good.
So I take a nice picture of it and then send it to them. And it's almost getting creepy, like I'm watching you type of situation.
Yeah.
It's becoming. I'm becoming really. Did you ever see the show?
Joe Goldberg.
No, but I've heard about
of it. You know,
I know
of it.
of it. Yes.
So I'm becoming more like the main character these days, and I don't like it.
Right.
But I don't like who I'm becoming, but I kind of love it too.
Yeah, I feel like I think they're starting to get creeped out by you, but I don't think it's time
and that's
to give
fine. No.
Well, they're definitely aware of you, I guess.
Yeah,
they do like your posts a lot,
and that's the thing. They comment back to me a lot, and then they like my stuff, and then just don't do anything. We're just, you know what I mean? It's like they're drawing me in, and then they're just like.
Well, they're winning right now. They have the upper hand.
The Phillies Spanish announcers are following him.
I get followed by the Spanish announcer.
Nice.
And which is cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just very strange.
Maybe you guys start making propositions like if they make the playoffs, follow me back.
You know what's funny? I tried doing that. I even gave them like some outlandish stuff, like
on day 45.
If day 45,
I've been throwing out parlays all the time.
I throw out parlays to them all the time. Yeah. If say Ranger Suarez, if he strikes out 10 and then Harper homers and they win, follow me. The one time they actually answered me and said no. Straight up said no.
Straight up.
Well, at least for being honest,
Yeah, it's
you can't hate that. So listen, I don't know, man. I think you got to keep it going though. Like as someone who loves a good bet, it's a good bet.
Jack, you know what? If you like a good bit, you can follow me too. You know what I mean? We can get this going on too. I like that we're friends now. I like that we're cool.
Well, we got off on a rough stretch there, pal.
We did, and you know what? And it was a great call by you, by the way, messaging me back them two things. I laughed. I really did. I thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
it made
I didn't forget.
No. I was a different person then. I was a different person then.
Yeah,
he had a longer beard.
Yeah,
I was like, "What are you so mad about?"
Your beard's weird, short.
I'm a big fan. I always find it funny when people get like really mad on Twitter. I'm like, "What is it? Just relax, man."
I'll never understand.
But one time I said something to you.
People get on social media. It's social media. You sit back and laugh and you enjoy it.
I'll never forget the one time I said something to you. 3 months later, you commented back and said something back to me. I went. That was a great. That was incredible. Like it was almost like you were just sitting there, like I'm going to get him, but he does not know when, and it just was a random.
I don't know why, but I was like, I'm going to get this guy. I'm gonna get him. But I'm glad we're here.
Goldberg.
But now we're here, Jack. Now we're here.
I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're here, pal. So
am I.
We'll figure it out, and good luck with your quest to get followed.
It's guys like you are why I keep doing it. I enjoy seeing this. I enjoy the hearing how you feel about it. And you're not followed, which is ridiculous. You should be followed too. So you know what? Maybe I'll start throwing maybe throw my guy Jack a little follow too.
Nah, I don't think they're gonna.
You don't want to be a part of the creepiness? You don't want to be a part of it?
It's not that. It's not that. I just don't think they're gonna follow me. Is
there a reason why they won't follow you?
No, I just if they didn't follow me after single-handedly getting Bryce Harper here, I don't know what's gonna get.
Or running to get them, a winning streak.
I've done enough for this team. If they don't want this fire content, I don't know what to tell them.
They don't want this love.
No.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
But Jack, I appreciate you coming on. I had a blast.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope to see you. I hope to have you on again.
Yeah, for sure, man. Whenever, and hopefully, it's not looking great early, but hopefully we can come back and get a nice little W tonight.
Maybe we can do a wild card show.
Let's not get our hopes up.
An NL East champ show. I'm sorry, the wild card was clinched last night because the Cardinals haven't lost since
they're never losing again.
Yeah, they haven't lost since John started hanging off buildings trying to get the Phillies to follow them.
Right. A decade later, they still haven't lost a game. Unbelievable run for the Cardinals.
But, all right, thank you for coming on, Jack.
Yeah,
appreciate
no problem. Anytime.
Appreciate it again, Jack. Man, that was good.
Yeah, that was fun. That was Jack Fritz from WIP, giving us some great content, good answers, and me and him are friends again.
I love that you guys are friends.
it was needed. It was needed. It was definitely needed. But where is guys easiest? I don't know.
That's their job.
That's their job. Their job is to, put that out there. Put the hate out there.
Like how he talked about that call, that he loves those calls. Their job is to take that call because he gets to talk about it. And then, if we were listening, we'd be like, did you hear that moron say this and this? And then we're talking about it. That's why they love those guys. They don't want the guys to come on and like actually make a little bit of sense. Because like
it's boring.
Right. It's like, oh, I don't want to listen to him.
I do think it's funny that it took him that long to respond back.
I love the on you.
The best is that the funniest part about it all is that he just sent me the messages of what I said to him when I asked him to come on. It was a great call. It made me want him to come on more.
Absolutely, you appreciate that kind of
absolutely.
Like
he was, it was great.
No bullshit.
Why were you not
Justin
friends?
wants to know why you weren't friends. It's not that they weren't friends.
We weren't friends. We just got off on the wrong foot. I made some comments to him or about him on Twitter, and he just screenshotted them and sent them to me through message when I asked him to come on as like a couple months later. And it was just, but he's, as you can see, a fucking super nice guy.
He's very nice. He's very down to earth. It
was real easy to talk to him. And
yes,
it was just me being immature and stupid and trying to.
But that's what social media.
Trying to start. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you gotta get some type of action out there.
Yeah, and it was just me being a fucking troll for no reason, and he commented back, and that's all it was. White bear.
What the hell was that? White bear claw.
Does he think of white? Is he trying to say white claw?
I'm pretty sure he's trying to say white claw, not white bear claw.
White bear claw. Are you a cyber bully? No, I'm not a cyber bully. It was just he made a comment about, I believe it was Jake Odorizzi.
No,
is that who it was?
Yeah, it was Jake Odorizzi. That Jake Odorizzi would make this team. They would win the divisions for the playoffs.
Which, at this point, any fifth starter would probably make us a lot.
And I think I said something like he's got like the baseball IQ of a raisin or something like that. It was like something stupid like that. It was I came at his baseball IQ is really what it came down to.
Yeah,
and then so it really wasn't being a troll. It was more just me seeing that and getting annoyed by it.
Yeah.
And
we're not cyber bullies, Justin.
Not one bit, Justin, am I a cyber bully. But like I said, it was just great that he was able to come on and yeah. It was. And the good thing is he probably thought it was funny, and it wasn't like he was mad about it. He came on.
No, again, you can tell he's down to earth. He's not like one of those guys who gets mad on social media. Like, why are we getting mad? Like, it's social media. I laugh.
It was stupid, and I took my baseball mind and my I know more than you mentality for no reason at all, and then just threw that out there, and then he. Funnily enough, just answered back to it, which is pretty funny.
Nah, that was a good episode. Like he was
absolutely.
It's just funny that he brings up Fangraphs. I'm like, was there anybody out? Like, like I said,
you and Joe Girardi didn't know Fangraphs.
You and Joe Girardi are still looking at MLB.com. That's the problem. That's the problem.
They give you 4 stats. On MLB.com. I can't believe that
they recently started calling. They've recently started talking about OPS. Like that's like the new thing. Or OPS plus as if it's like new. Like that's like they love talking about OPS plus on ESPN. It's hysterical.
I did love Danny's comment about is his browser stuck on pre-2019.
I mean, honestly. It's
not up to date. That's for damn sure.
And he's just not taking calls from the minor leagues, like letting them know like this is what's going on down here. You know? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had fun. Hope everyone else who listened had fun. We're gonna start. Hopefully, I mean, we're getting. He's using. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll start doing playoffs, and we'll discuss the games because obviously it's not looking very well for us to be discussing Phillies in the playoffs.
No, it's good, but like. Yeah, it's just not looking good. It's not. Yeah. This is not. They're down 4-1 right now, 3-1. It's
when you go 21 innings without scoring a run in a pennant race, that's it's unacceptable. And like you said, they sucked us right back in 2 weeks ago. Then they went on that winning streak, just like we said they were, and they kept us going up until Eagle season. And look where we are with the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, we're miserable. It sucks to watch, and we're like, once again, here's Didi Gregorius leading off an inning against a left-handed pitcher.
You talk shit, you know what that means? Guaranteed home run.
Let's go. Over AL baseball.
I mean, if that's all we have to do.
No, it does not. So when that's the funny thing. When this, I me and Danny have discussed once the season ends, the regular season ends, we're gonna go and start doing my overall baseball podcast again.
The Frozen Rope.
We're gonna go back to the Frozen Rope. Chris, you're very welcome to join us on the Frozen Rope for playoff baseball. We're gonna start doing Frozen Rope, the Frozen Rope content again for overall baseball. We'll talk playoff baseball. We'll talk, everything that's going on. Then we start talking off season. We'll still mix in probably a couple of diamond clubs from the off season, just because of the fact that we're going to be talking about what the Phillies are going to do, what we want them to do, certain things. But we had we had to Frozen Rope after this, after this season comes to a close, and I'm pretty excited to get back into that, to be honest.
Yeah. Me too.
Not be miserable about baseball. It's a lot fun. It's a lot funner when you're talking about overall everything that's going on in baseball.
Instead of having 5 games left and having to wait another year for playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and you're right. To be honest, we thought that there was legitimate pitching. I mean, you had David. They brought in Kyle Gibson, who was an all-star. It wasn't like they brought in some some schmuck who never played baseball before, you know what I mean? Or like who hasn't been up, and they just called someone up. They did. They got an all-star pitcher at the deadline. Did they get Scherzer? No.
But you know what the argument's going to be? That
they got an all-star.
That they didn't move Ranger Suarez to the starting rotation earlier. That's going to be.
I mean, I still see people on Twitter who comment about how we never got we moved them out of the bullpen, out of the closer's role. There's people who are still mad about that. But when you look at the numbers, to be honest, he's got 3 blown saves and 4 saves. So was he even that great as a closer? No, he wasn't. He still did exactly what everyone else did.
Right.
Like it wasn't like he was some stud as the closer. He's a much better starter. He's built to be a starter. That's what he was coming up.
His whole life. Yeah.
His whole career, he was a starter.
Right. And that's what I think that's where people got lost, is because he was quote unquote in the middle reliefs doing so well. But I'm like, he's a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. That's what he's been. He's going to eventually get back to it. And last week he throws that 97 pitch shutout, which was ridiculous. He made those hitters look silly. But
the kids call that a Maddox.
Yes,
that's what that's called, Chris.
A Maddox.
Under 100 pitches and a complete game shutout.
And it's not like he's throwing blazing fast.
I just knows how to pitch.
You want to know why? Because he doesn't have to throw hard. When you're a pitcher, when you can pitch, you don't have to throw 99. It's great if you can and you can do it that way. That's why guys like Max Scherzer, that's why they are good.
Right, and that's why Ranger Suarez was so good in the middle innings, because he would get those batters to 0-2, and then he would just throw them something completely that shouldn't be thrown, and it would just go down the middle for a strike, and you're like, what?
Yeah, he's that guy, and listen. I showed that I was wrong about him last year. I hated him. I wanted no parts of him pitching at all, which I think he proved why I didn't want him to pitch last year. He was fucking terrible. Sorry for my language, but he was terrible. He was awful. Right. He wasn't. But he also was out of position. He was not a middle reliever. He's a starter.
Right.
And that's what they used him as, and he didn't look that good. And it's just people, and like Justin mentioned, we're along. I missed the Docs, Lee, Hamels, and Oswald. Who doesn't miss that? Like that was when they were, there was good, sustainable pitchers here. They were able to get them through games, and you had 5 guys in. People forget They also had Pedro Martinez at one point too, in that with them. You know what I mean? Like they had some good starting pitchers then. Like their
bullpen was good.
Absolutely, it was.
Having those starting pitchers eat up those innings helps the bullpen a ton too.
100% it does.
It's just a well-rounded unit, which
and
some people also call me a well-rounded unit, but I mean that's neither here or there.
That's right, Dan. Also, little congratulations for you that your wife is pregnant. You know, we talked about it before. Congratulations.
Yep.
My wife is any minute now going to burst.
I know. You're on call.
You know what's
I'm
going
on
to happen
call
right
now.
We have going to happen, right?
Our due date's tomorrow.
How long does it take you to get down from the side of a building?
I'm off right now, so it's perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we're splitting time, so I'm off this week. So it actually worked out pretty well.
I say, because I mean, where is she going to go?
She's going to. Anyway? No, it's she's going to Holy Redeemer.
On Jefferson or
something. Holy Redeemer, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been brutal getting from a side of the building downtown to Holy Redeemer.
Yeah.
That's where my kids were born, Holy Redeemer.
And to get from the 27, I'm on 28 now. The 28th floor is already a bitch because there's so many floors and only 2 hoists going. So it's like.
So here's what you do.
Awful.
You bring a gun and you just shoot the glass. Shoot the glass.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I probably don't even have to do it myself. I mean, there's a lot of people that, I mean, I'm working downtown. They've been shooting glass probably since I started. I mean, we've had a couple bullet holes in glass already in the last couple of years, so it's been pretty funny.
So, Danny, do you know what you're having?
Not yet. She's 12 weeks. I think we have to wait until like 18 or 20. I think it is to find out the sex. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I already have a daughter, so we're hoping for a son. But as long as as long as everything goes well, who cares? But
absolutely,
let's get it.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters, man.
But he wants his boy.
Absolutely. I need a little bit of defense when my daughter tries stabbing me in the neck.
Yeah.
So
hold on. Is she gonna watch the new Chucky series that's on USA or Sci-Fi or one of those?
Yeah, she's gonna watch it. She's fired up.
She's so fired up.
Yeah, she's like, is that out yet, or can we watch Paw Patrol movie? Is Chucky out yet? I'm like, relax.
Is she gonna watch the new Halloween movie?
Finish your grapes. Yeah, she's fired up about that too.
Listen, I'm fired up because I don't have to leave my house to see the new Sopranos movie, to see the new Halloween movie. Like I'm
rewatching The Sopranos right now.
I rewatched.
I've never got through the first season. I only tried 2 months.
Keep going.
You
gotta watch it,
dude. It's so good. I'm on the second season. I'm on the second season again. It's great, dude. That's just such a good show. It's just such a good show.
Like ADD, whatever it is, like it's just so hard for me to focus on a show.
I'm wearing I'm wearing the AirPods today, and random. I'm sorry, I have the remote in my hand, and they're in the corner. It randomly I don't want to say its name because it's going to keep coming up. Siri, it just keeps coming up on the side. Yeah, just did it again.
Yes, Justin, Sopranos is worth the watch.
Yes, it's worth the watch.
If
Justin.
you're gonna watch,
come on.
If you're gonna watch the Sons of Newark, you got to watch this.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Right, I'll dive into it. I'm gonna be serious about it this time.
Dan, what time do you have to be at work?
2 hours. 2 hours ago.
Did they know you're gonna be late?
Yes.
Did you tell them 3 hours late?
No.
Fashion. There's a guy that I'm like friends with. He told me that he's like a foreman at his company, and he's like, this guy once told us that he was gonna, he's taking a half day on Friday or something, or Tuesday, whatever day it was, and I was like, he tells me he's gonna take a half day. He's like, he just doesn't show up in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck's going on, dude? He showed up the second. He showed up the second half of the day.
Oh, what a psychopath!
He showed up after lunch.
What a psycho on a Friday.
Yes.
That's the order of operations you're supposed to do.
Yeah, dude, it's absurd. It's
I
absurd.
love it.
But it's a 10-hour shift, so I'm going to like 2 hours and 45 minutes into it and just going to work straight through, no breaks or nothing. Everyone else on no breaks. I'm just going to be punishing walls all night. So we'll
yeah, that's fine.
Don't get 10 hours.
What job you at?
Oh, it's in Plymouth Meeting, so it's not very close.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's like with traffic right now, it's like 40 minutes. So it's not
Dan, the dedication to this show from you is just incredible.
My schedule's been killing us, so I figured.
Yeah. We thank you. Yeah, get to work, Dan. All right, get to work.
For being late.
Oh, I don't know. Just we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thanks
To be determined.
Justin and everybody from the Painted Lines from joining.
Yes, thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone from the Painted Lines.
Keith from YouTube.
Go follow
Again,
them, by the way.
Again, every week though, with the last names of our viewers, don't make it easy on us.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that one
Persicity.
episode.
Persicity not that bad.
I'm gonna call it
Persicity. Yeah, I like
Persicity.
Persicity.
That wasn't as bad as the last show where I was like, yeah, I'm not saying your name.
Yeah, that dude's name was that was a nightmare.
I'm pretty sure we were infiltrated by a different country last episode. Something was happening.
It was wild. What just happened to our background?
Sorry.
What are you setting up for the next show, Chris?
Is that gritty?
Yeah. No, that's not
unbelievable, dude. You just what are you kicking us off?
No.
I feel that's how I
We're
feel.
Still live.
I mean, I should be leaving.
I'm getting ready
you
for
should
our
be going to work.
show.
I already have my work shirt on, so we're good.
The outro show. Okay. Whatever.
Right,
boys, thank you. Everyone, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it. Route.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's easy to sum it up. We talk